Hello, Johnny Long here with another advert for you. Now just be thankful I'm not trying to sell you ketones or subscriptions to some mental health app. Anyway, the reason I'm not here selling you any of that stuff is because I've got something much better and much cheaper, which actually helps us keep those sorts of ads at bay. We're running our $1 promotion again during this Tour de France, which means you can sign up for just $1 or £1 or €1 and access all of our articles and member-only podcasts for a month. Support independent cycling journalism. Ensure these are the only sorts of ads you hear on our podcast or see on our site. Join the movement in this little corner of the internet. Come on. You're presumably listening to this podcast of your own free will, maybe even enjoying it. Let's dare to hope. I understand if you've been on the fence about signing up for yet another subscription. So what we're trying to do is tease you into it, lure you, and once you're in and you're all warm and nice, you'll never want to leave. That's the name of this capitalist game. Don't resist it. Come on home. So visit escapecollective.com/TDF to take up this special limited time offer. $1, escapecollective.com/TDF. What else can you actually buy for $1 these days? With inflation, that dollar is just going to keep becoming worth less and less, so you might as well spend it now.
Welcome to the Escape Collective Tour Daily podcast, everybody. I'm Caley Fretz, joined around a round table with 3 beers on it, 3 laptops, some phones, some recording equipment, and a lot of love. Johnny Long.
England. What a terrible way to start the podcast.
We've got an England game tonight, a couple hours, but right now we got a lot of Tour de France to talk about. Also joining me this evening, Iain Trellar.
Did I ever really leave?
No, actually, you've been...
You're always here.
Yeah, you're always right there. Usually in the back seat, sometimes asleep.
In my heart.
Oh.
Yep.
He was a front seat Freddy today.
He was a front seat Freddy today.
But I don't think he enjoyed it.
I didn't. There's more room if you're a backseat Barry.
Yeah. And less
less responsibility as well, because at points Caley asked me to look at maps and things, and I didn't like that.
I did feel a bit of a dick.
Well, then I just took the map from you and did it myself.
Yeah.
Well, I felt a bit of a
which
dick
is unsafe.
when there was a time when you needed to get the map up and Caley had said and you hadn't, so I was like, Iain. And I was just like, why did you say it in that tone? Like, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Well, that's fine.
No, he deserved it. It's your only job sitting in that seat is to tell me where to go.
Ian's just a nice guy, and I just feel bad.
Don't worry, I'll be in the backseat tomorrow.
We'll
forget it ever
job.
happened.
With the snacks.
Only
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
Smelling like lollipops.
Just slamming down a tube of Pringles every day.
Guys, who won the bike race today?
Jonas Vingegaard.
Which is a surprising thing. I think if you turned on the race at like 30K to go, you would have said that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah,
in a sprint, actually.
Yeah,
sprint,
even
first time
500K to go, or 500 meters to go.
First time ever. Weird pub quiz question of the future. When was the first time Jonas Vingegaard beat Tadej Pogačar in the sprint? In Lioran. Yeah, great stage. I mean, we thought it was going to be nailed on for a breakaway. It just had that profile of one.
Yeah.
But then we also have to remember how easy some of the past few days have been and how eager Tadej Pogačar is to just kind of try and put this race out of reach of Jonas Vingegaard before he potentially finds a stage that really suits him if he's feeling up to it. Yeah,
and we're going to talk about the sort of the opposing narratives, I guess, around Vingegaard and Vingegaard's fitness. Tom Scoinch, friend of the podcast, close friend of the podcast, he rode by me today. He just yelled at the top of his lungs, "Breakaway day, huh?"
At the start? No,
the finish. Because he tried, along with many others.
And just couldn't.
And it was just, a group did get off the front. They were off the front until, the Puy-Marie, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And then once UAE really started to dial it up, it was just never going to happen. And they were never given that big of a gap. And so it was never one of those, the GC favorites hang out and the breakaway is given 8 minutes or whatever. They were given 2.5, maybe up to 3. They were kind of doomed from that point on. And then once UAE started to crank it up, they really showed how much strength they have in the mountains. Today wasn't a full-on mountain day, but those were hard climbs. We drove a sizable portion of the course today. It was not easy.
Yeah. It was those sorts of climbs as well, where the road's so narrow and it sort of ducks and dives in between the trees and the fan. Basically, there was a weird thing on the road today where they had it wasn't barriers, but it was like parts of the climb were roped off, and the metal poles are actually drilled into the road, which I haven't necessarily seen. Maybe I haven't been paying enough attention. But I haven't seen that for that amount of time before, so I don't know what they were expecting.
Yeah, it must have been like the local council decided that was the best way to do it, or something.
But I think when we saw the course, we were like, okay, and this is going to be a day. And there were some quotes at the start, I think, from Stevie Williams saying it was in the air that today was going to be a big day.
Yeah.
And it was great. Pogačar said afterwards that it was a day that as a fan he'd love to watch on TV, which I appreciate that presence of mind to like sort of zoom out of the bike race and like realize that even though it's you making the bike race good, you're like, yeah, that was good, wasn't it? That was really fun.
It was really good. He attacked a fair ways out.
From like 30k.
Yeah,
he attacked near the top of the Pyrenees Pas de Pérol, which has a pretty sizable, nasty section at the end. So it has a kilometer at 14% right near the top of that. I think that's kind of where he had tried to escape. Went over the top with a bit of a gap, extended that lead down to the bottom of the next climb. But then the Col de Pertus, which on paper, not a bad one for Pogačar, but a bit steeper, and maybe one that suits Vingegaard a little bit better. And Vingegaard was able to claw back almost 30 seconds up that not particularly long climb. Pogačar take the bonus seconds at the top, but then the two of them rode together over the final climb, which is the Col de la Font Carré, and then this like little tiny kicker up to L'Oliron, which where we saw a sprint finish between the two, that Jonas Vingegaard won.
Yeah, Pogačar did say afterwards that on that climb when he was getting caught by Jonas, he didn't exactly know where he was on the climb for the last couple of kilometers, so he kind of eased up and waited for Vingegaard, and then was like, and then I'll sprint him for the line. But he was like, if I'd known that I was within the last kilometer, I probably would have gone over my limit to try and stay ahead, because then presumably he could have ridden away from him on the descent again. But ultimately, maybe that would have changed things. Not sure. I think Vingegaard probably would have then quit him on that final climb.
Well, Pogačar has been pulling out time on Vingegaard on descents and flats. And Vingegaard has been worse than both Pogačar and Remco Evenepoel in those particular areas. And so I think that he's probably right. If he had been able to get over the top, actually I texted this to my friends at some point. If he'd been able to get over the top with even a couple seconds, I think he would have pulled that back out. Now, would he have been caught on that sort of final Cat 3? Potentially. That final Cat 3 was nowhere near as steep, so it does suit Pogačar a bit better. He's a bit heavier. But that's one of those things where you'd think someone would be in his ear saying, this is how far you've got to go.
It's still hard. Today it was in a beautiful area of France, so maybe, and the Wi-Fi and connection was a bit rubbish, so maybe that's what we talked about with the control room, was imperfect information on the road, so maybe that played a factor. But one thing Pogačar was sure at the finish, he's like, no, attacking in the descents and trying to gap in the descents is not my plan. I was trying to gap him on that climb and do the same as I did in the Galibier, which I would take with a pinch of salt. I think he realized
he got most of his time in the descent.
If he can get a gap on the top, obviously that's great, and he wants to do that.
Yeah.
But he's but also in those pedaling down hills, which you were saying is a big change to how
he's faster on the pedally descents. Yeah. And they're all running such big gears now that more descents are pedally descents, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not running 53s, they're running 56s or even bigger sometimes. And there's just more descents that they can pedal on. I guess this kind of brings us to this. There's two ways of looking at the Vingegaard narrative at this point. And I think it's kind of interesting that the narrative around him feels actually polar opposite to the narrative around Pogačar last year. So the narrative around Pogačar last year, and particularly his fitness, was that, his lead into this tour was imperfect. So the last week's going to be really hard for him. And that ended up being true, right? He lost 7.5 minutes in 2 days. For whatever reason, the narrative around Vingegaard this time, despite the fact that the injury was worse, and in theory his durability would be, I mentioned this a couple times in this pod already, his durability would be the thing that comes back the slowest. For whatever reason, the narrative is that he's going to get better and better throughout this tour. And I'm not really sure where that comes from. I spoke with a couple different people on this in the last couple of days. I'm gonna do a story on this on the site at some point. Well, one of them was Jack Haig, who's doing the pod grabs for us already, and he was basically like, yeah, that's not what would happen to me. If I came into this race like Vingegaard did, I'd be getting worse and worse throughout the 3 weeks because I would not be able to recover sufficiently to get better. Now, he did sort of caveat that with, but I'm not Jonas Vingegaard. Maybe he's strong enough. Maybe he recovers well enough that he actually can get faster over 3 weeks. But that would be unusual. It would be a very unusual thing for him to get better relative to his competitors 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks into a race when the lead up was not ideal.
A car has just absolutely smacked the van over there. And no one really seems to mind apart from the woman who maybe's van it is. She's laughing now. She's cutting cheese. It's fine. I was going to say that I think what's feeding that narrative, potentially, is we saw a Visma, Lisa Bike and Jonas Vingegaard quite apprehensive. I think legitimately apprehensive before the start of the race. I think there weren't as many mind games, potentially, as some of us thought. And then today, I think between Vingegaard's emotion at the finish line a number of times and in interviews afterwards of like the release that he has been able to make it back to his previous best level. Richard Plugger got off the bus, and when it was confirmed that Vingegaard had won, because it wasn't like when you watch outside this bus on the screen, it's not clear even if it's like.
And it was a photo finish.
It was a photo finish.
Yeah, it was about half a wheel.
There was a huge sort of cheer from him and like lots of back, like the Dutch VIPs and the team love to do like lots of backslapping hugs. Like you can actually hear it from like a fair way off. So they are now, yeah. It's, I'll try and record it next time it happens. It's really fun. But to the point is they're feeling themselves right now. I think the tour's already gone better than they probably could have hoped before the start.
It's all about setting expectations, right? And the expectations were set for Vingegaard that were relatively low. And I think that they were set very high for Pogačar. So despite the fact that he is still winning this bike race and has a decent enough gap on Jonas Vingegaard, the perception is that he hasn't gone as well as it should have.
You set yourself up as the underdog. It's the best way to exist. And with UAE Team Emirates, I was there at the bus when Machin, the team manager, was chatting. And when I listened back to it, I was like, his English isn't great, which, my Spanish is non-existent, so I can't really judge. But what he does a great job of, which Dave Brailsford used to do quite well, is talking a lot without really saying much. I was listening back to it, and it's like, he's actually just spent like 3.5 minutes just telling me what happened in the bike race. And then anytime anyone asks actually like a direct question, he's like, oh, I don't know, I haven't seen Pogačar yet. So, fair enough. But then the last thing he said was that, sorry, let's just get me the headline up, which is what I'm running today. He said the goal is to attack with the yellow jersey. That is absolutely the tactic. So they are going to keep on the same path they've been going this tour of trying to wear Jonas Vingegaard down to hope that he cracks in that third week maybe, or at least try and get enough seconds that the gap is too big for a Pogačar crack that's not 7 minutes, but maybe smaller.
So this is the thing that confuses me because, again, to return to sort of this flipped narrative thing, right? So last year, the narrative was Visma has to make every day hard because that will harm a Pogačar who entered this race in a suboptimal condition, right? It'll make it hard enough that he will crack at some point. And yet now, UAE is kind of doing the same thing. They're making every hard day hard. They're using up riders. They're sticking Yates in the front to go drill it and make it a hard day. And then Pogačar's making it a really hard day by forcing Vingegaard to
with
chase
long
him.
Long attacks.
Yeah. Like to be really clear, like Pogačar, him attacking there, it's not any easier on Vingegaard. Like they're both using a ton of energy.
Well, they were relaying, weren't they?
It's not a quote unquote waste of energy for Pogačar to do that. They're both using the same amount of energy because Vingegaard has to chase him to get back on. Isn't that exactly what we were saying was smart from Visma last year?
Yeah.
And now people are saying it's dumb from UAE this year. And I don't really understand why that is the case.
People think that Pogačar is maybe also
he does feel like he's making it up. He does feel like he's making it up as he goes along.
Well, he said this morning before the start, I was trying to find the clip again, but I just saw it as we left in the car, and he was talking. The question was about tactics and strategy in the tour, and he's like, well, at the end of the day, it comes down to legs. And I think he was just like, I can't be bothered with... I mean, I was being asked questions like, when I'm not riding my bike, I'm just getting asked questions, and I'm kind of sick of it. I just want to go and ride my bike and set this day up on a big attack. But it does feel increasingly like it's whoever has that slight tactical advantage. And you saw that because on the podium, as he's putting the yellow jersey on, he's got a mouthful of food. So he's clearly fixing the problems of before when he was like underfueled and stuff like that. So there's
There was a theory today that he underfueled.
Yeah.
This is like a Twitter theory, people noticing that he called a neutral service car up to him at one point. This is around the time when Vingegaard was catching him.
I was checking his back
I think
pockets.
It's really hard to... Yeah, he's checking his pockets. I think it's really hard to know whether that's true or not, but if it is, it's very frustrating, I think, because what we want to see both these riders sort of like at their best, doing their best, competing at their best, and if they do something really dumb, like forget to feed him, which is something that Visma Lease Bike would never do.
Never.
Well, the thing
that's
Visma
really
Lease
frustrating
Bike,
for like the sport, you know?
Visma Lease Bike has 20 chefs.
Right.
Like they have personalized nutrition plans. They have so many people working to optimize things for their riders. And UAE has a great team, and they've got Tadej Pogačar, and they're really, really, really good. But there are some things that Visma Lease Bike does.
You still got that in your head.
I can't get it out. I can't shake it. But to go to your comment earlier about tactical advantage for UAE Team Emirates, I mean, they do some dumb things, but they do have a few more cards to play in terms of throwing things at Visma Lease Bike. At the moment, they've got 4 riders in the top 9 on GC. Joao Almeida.
You could argue that today they made their other options a lot less powerful, though, because they dropped their own riders.
Time, and they maybe, I think Pogačar actually lost 1 or 2 seconds to Vingegaard in the end.
Yeah,
but you know, that's one of the great things about.
Well, but I mean, like Ayuso Almeida, those guys are farther away from Vingegaard now. So the farther away they get from Vingegaard, the less useful they are from that tactical perspective. Like if Almeida goes up the road, Vingegaard doesn't care.
Yeah, but that's also because that tactic doesn't work as well as when it was Roglic and Vingegaard. That's the problem. Should we talk about Roglic for a second?
Yeah, let's move on from the I mean, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about the leaders here. We haven't even actually had a mountain stage yet. I think that's worth keeping in mind. We had the Galibier day. Today was hard, but it wasn't really a mountain stage. It was a bunch of much shorter climbs.
We were on some mountains today.
Yeah, but it was a bunch of like...
Not mountain.
It was a cat...
like one.
Cat 2, Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3. A very hard day.
Feel mountainy.
That felt like a mountain.
Yeah, the Pyrenees stages this weekend, like I was talking to Tom Steels, who's the director for Remco, and he was like, no, this weekend, like that's when stuff goes down. Not today.
Okay. Well, let's skip forward to that then. What's the point of the rest of these days? But Primož Roglic, again doing his, like, is he really a contender for this tour? He's like, at the moment he is 4th on GC. Primož Roglic is 2 minutes 15 behind Tadej Pogačar. He's a minute behind Vingegaard. You can't see him making that up, but he's also 2 minutes ahead of Almeida. So I reckon, an early shout, Primož Roglic is going to be the rider who's going to be even more 4th as this tour goes on.
I think that seems pretty likely.
He also could have lost more time today because he crashed, and we heard it from a France TV person who had an earpiece in, so it was getting the feed ahead of what we were seeing on the actual TV on the bus.
Yeah.
And he said, shoot him, and like, what's happened? And then suddenly the camera cuts, and it's like a motorbike on its side, and then you just see the back of Roglic's wheel and
like his
number.
butt on the ground. Yeah.
And so we don't really know, but they did the 3km rule, which applied for today, because it wasn't exactly a summit. Like there was enough of a plateau maybe that it worked.
So we didn't know this was going to happen, and then we're sort of cruising around the buses, and all of a sudden we hear, Roglic is at the same time as Remco, and I had just had a chat with Tom Steels, the director over there, and I just turned back to him. I was like, Tom, did you hear this? And he was actually quite magnanimous, and let's just listen to him.
Yeah, it's a bit strange because Remco still closes 15 seconds. On the other hand, maybe another day it will be in our benefit. So I think we can. It's
You can't be too angry about it.
No. It is what it is. Yeah.
So he was, he was, I think, correct in saying, it was Roglic that got the time today. It could be us next time. I think more interestingly, it's like it's pretty unusual for them to do this 3K rule thing on a non-sprint stage. But clearly they had identified the descent, the really slippery, nasty descent at the end today, and the fact that it wasn't really going to add much to the race, but it was potentially really dangerous. And they announced it. I later confirmed with both Tom and with Charlie Wigelius at EF that they had announced this over the race radio earlier in the day. So everyone's aware of it. So like sitting in the Bora team car, they probably weren't freaking out because they knew as long as Roglic was okay, he wasn't going to lose any time at that point. I think that the other important thing here is you can still gain or lose time in the final 3K. You can still have a gap. You just can't have that gap caused by a crash or mechanical incident.
Even if you're Roglic,
Bloody
so like loves a crash.
Yeah. So like, I guess in theory, a rider could like, as they're getting dropped, crash on purpose or something stupid like that, right? But like
we've not seen that.
We haven't
That'd be
seen
the
it.
equivalent of like the football dive.
Yeah.
Or feign of injury, so you're down to 10 men for a brief period.
I've seen this plenty of times in like crit racing because you can get a free lap if you're behind a crash or in a crash. So people just like pretend they're in a crash. They just like pull a leg of their shorts up and go roll back around and get a free lap.
I'm not sure if this story's been told, but there's someone we know tangentially attached to this podcast and our company in some way who was in a stage race and only was there to make up the numbers for the start list. And there's a crash pretty soon after kilometre 0, and they were behind it, and they just got off their bike and laid down with everyone who had crashed to make so they didn't have to race.
I wonder who that could be.
We won't name any names.
Never.
We would never name names.
Never. We just cheekily skirt close to identifying people who've done mischievous things.
The Ayuso Almeida conundrum is solved.
Well, I was outside the bus, UAE bus. Almeida got back, warming down his bike normally. Ayuso then comes a bit later, sort of hunched over his bike. UAE staff member puts like the arm around the rider when it's like they know they've not had a fun day, and he sort of asks him like, "Are you all right?" And Ayuso's just like, "Yeah." We're like, when you don't really mean yeah, and just like go straight onto the bus.
He drops to 9th.
Yeah, he's now the 4th best placed UAE rider. So like whatever was going on there, I think there was probably a little bit of tumult.
Almeida's still 5th. Yeah, it's a sizable gap too. I mean, yeah, Ayuso 9th, 7:09 back. Almeida is only 4:20 back, so yeah, it's a 3-minute gap.
It would be interesting if UAE had played this differently. Maybe we'll ask them about this, but I'm not sure if we'll get a straight answer because Visma don't have the riders to bring back an Ayuso or a Yates or an Almeida who went up the road. Like that's the main difference between maybe previous years is that Visma's like climbing core is not. I mean,
Jonas is isolated basically as soon as Remco is isolated.
So then Jonas would have
sooner.
to. Maybe we're building up to that. Maybe there is going to be a long range thing, but the problem is it's just going to be way less effective.
Yeah,
but you've still got what's the gap? 4 minutes.
Yeah,
the closest UAE out of the UAE rider. So
but 4 minutes.
4 minutes isn't that crazy because you've got big mountains to come.
Got big, and if you force Vingegaard to pull, that really works in Pogačar's favor. I think that there's still some tactical uses of those riders, but again, I think that dropping them today may be something that they wish they hadn't done end of this week. I think having Ayuso and Almeida lose time today, yes, it was more fun for us. Yes, it made for a much better bike race, but I think that if you flip the shoes and you say that you've got the Visma analytical hat on, I don't think they do that.
No.
I think they ride today. I think if Vingegaard is has his team from last year and is in the yellow jersey, so they're in control. You don't see there's no attack today.
Maybe final thing before we move on to other things and less serious bike
we didn't really
talk.
do Remco yet, but yeah.
But the only thing I'd say is the fact of the matter is that Pogačar is in the yellow jersey. So at some point, Vingegaard is going to have to make back over a minute. Whether he's not going to want to wait till that final time trial.
Yeah.
So at some point, we're going to have to see Vingegaard attack.
Yep.
Which we don't often see, at least with him having to do it all on his own, not like a set with him.
Yep.
So,
I mean, we saw it certainly on the Granol, and
but I mean,
we've seen it in very key moments.
He's going to do it all.
I would imagine that if for whatever reason it's true that he's getting stronger, we'll see that. I mean, we've got the Pyrenees coming up. We haven't even been let's be clear. We've done the one Galibier day. We did today. We haven't actually done the Pyrenees or the Alps yet.
It's a Giro-y tour.
It's a very strange tour.
Backloaded.
Yeah, it's nothing has happened in the grand scheme of GC.
It's like we've got
nothing
an altitude camp for the final week of the tour.
Yeah. Quick thing on Remco, the dangler in chief. The I say this in the nicest possible way.
Doesn't
but-
sound like it. It's not a overly flattering nickname.
No, it's great.
After all his ball talk,
no, you know
I
what it
think
means?
it's,
Okay, so how about we
fine.
reframe it, rephrase it? He never gives up. He's a fighter. Is that that's positive?
That's positive.
So, like a couple different times this race already, stage 2, Galibier stage, and today, he's lost time to Pogačar and Vingegaard over the top of some climb, and he has fought, clawed most of that time back.
It's been great. He's shown a real sort of mettle, I think you'd call it, a real grit. Whereas before, you could maybe, like, when things haven't gone his way to the Giro and he's got ill and it's like all gone wrong, maybe it's just because everything's finally going right for him at a Grand Tour that's not that Vuelta. And he's been able to prove himself properly in, this will piss off Dane, a proper Grand Tour.
Yeah.
Where it's not just, going up against guys who aren't focused on that race. But
I mean,
he's shown himself to be potentially the next best guy after the Vingegaard.
I think he's the hot favorite for third right now, right? Like he's not as fourth as Roglic is going to be, but I think he's the hot favorite for third. And that chat I had with Tom Steels, Tom is always great. He's like the most. It's funny because he was a very aggressive bike rider. And he's the most laid back director.
He is horizontal.
He's horizontal.
Yeah,
he's great. He did interviews today in 4 different languages. I was like, kudos to you.
He's just one of those dudes that is bike racing.
Yeah,
and it's just like if you saw him on the street, you just be like, oh, you're probably involved in some way.
Like he did Dutch, and then he did French, and then he did English with myself, and then briefly Adam Beckett, and then English again with NBC. And Steve Perino at NBC started off with being like, "Are you done talking?" And Tom was like, "Yeah," and then proceeded to spend like 5 minutes giving answers to NBC.
But the thing is, if your rider's going well, then you're kind of happy to talk about it, and it's better to do it now than when like Remco's, cut cheese and lost 10 minutes off the back.
That was a bit of a tangent on Tom Steels, but point being, what he said to me was that Remco is a lot more mature this tour. Like he's riding like a GC rider for the first time. He's figuring out how to dose his efforts. And one of the things he said was that he's already a time trialist, so he can already dose his efforts really, really well. And he's learning how to do that for GC. So he's learning how to not blow up and learning how to claw his way back. And it's probably going to get him on the podium, I think, in Nice.
Well, he's already got a stage win, so I think you'd probably say maybe job done for this tour. And the thing is, like, he's shown up to now how good he is. Maybe if he does fall apart in the Pyrenees, it's something to build on. It's rare for riders to get it done in their first and figured out in their first tour. It's just the differences we've got Vingegaard and Pogačar, who are generational talents.
We've got other things to get to. There's some sickness in Bahrain.
Yes, Fred Wright outside time limit.
Outside time limit. One of the ways that you can pick out that a team has sickness in it is that the riders come and go in team cars instead of the bus.
And masks are back for them.
Masks. So that's one of the things that happened at Bahrain. They're not the only team experiencing this at the moment. We'll bring you more on this over the next couple of days. But yeah, a real bummer for Bahrain. I mean, obviously friend of the pod, Jack Haig, is over there. Yeah. Friend of Jonny, Fred Wright.
I'm not sure he'd appreciate being called a friend of mine. An acquaintance, perhaps.
Friend of all Netflix viewers, Peo Bilbao, is there.
Well, he got dropped early, and that was kind of
rough.
When people were like, okay, something's really up.
I saw him smile at the end of the stage.
Yeah,
he seemed okay.
Well, but Jack Haig was on Instagram posting the link to his latest podcast, The Rest Day with Jack Haig.
Well, so it sounds like, I think Jack's all right. Jack so far is all right, which is good news for all Jack fans out there. But yeah, there's some illness in the team.
Seems okay.
I guess my sort of broader point being that there's this is the point in the race where there's illness all over the place. Yeah. And this is a pre-COVID thing, during COVID thing, post-COVID thing. It's just how it goes. There's colds abound, right? You brought together hundreds of people from all over the world.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Too much exercise.
Too much exercise. Food. So, something to keep an eye on. It's like where that's happening and to whom.
The real hidden tragedy of this is that we'll never find out what size feet Fred Wright has.
I mean, we could ask him, but probably leave it a couple of days.
But how do we do that? Do we just slide into his Instagram DMs? Because that's much weirder.
Don't make me say this, because it's literally the one number in my phone book. But
you have his number.
I have Fred Wright's number, yeah.
Okay, shoot him a WhatsApp message.
Not now.
No,
Now's probably not the time.
Not now. He's probably on a
Poor guy
toilet
just
somewhere
missed the time cut.
coughing up a lung.
Yeah. Missing the time cut is... Maybe we should do like a little mini feature on this because it's so brutal. It's like... We'll have to find some riders who have missed it in the past to talk about it because it's just... Like, most of the time, they've finished the stage out of personal honor and pride.
Yeah.
And so they've ridden, like today was 211 kilometers.
Fred got dropped with 158 kilometers to go.
Oh, so he rode 158k by himself over
probably in front of that fucking broom wagon. That is just like it's just it, for all intents and purposes is a normal vehicle, but it is just so annoying.
It's not a cool broom wagon. It's not like an old school Peugeot or something. It's like just a van.
Hungover French dude, just like rustling along at 30 kilometers.
Really rough. So yeah, maybe we'll do a little bit on that. Anyway, sorry, Fred. I'm sure you're listening.
Probably not.
Definitely not.
Definitely
not listening. Should we head to? We have two options now.
Two potential futures.
So should we head to Iain's notebook?
Yeah, because I feel like Iain's been bogged down by all of our racing chat.
But Iain wouldn't tell us what it is. We'll do that before we do Virage corrections today.
Okay.
All right. So
Iain, give me
my
your notebook
today, when we arrived at the finish, where we were staying in an ice skating rink, we had a lovely, cool press room for once in our stupid lives, where it was
actually
cold. Too cold.
It was cold.
So it's either too hot or too cold, and this time it was too cold.
the ice rink press room is a classic.
I love the ice rink press room. It's so nice.
It was really nice. So as the stage finished, I was out there looking for my little stories, and I tried to hang out by the Uno X bus and find Jonas Abrahamsson, who dropped out of the polka dot jersey today after 11 days.
But he will wear it still.
He will still wear it, but he's not really wearing it. That's the thing. And I was curious whether he would, whether it was a bit of a relief to have it off his shoulders in that sense, because it means that he probably gets to dinner about an hour earlier.
Ah, yes.
Because he doesn't have to do podium stuff.
Interviews and stuff, yeah.
Anyway, didn't talk to him because he didn't show up, and all of the Uno X riders wore backpacks and had to ride off to their next hotel, which was another 2 kilometers up the hill.
That's all right.
Which I thought...
Bit of a warm
well,
down.
they
Can you
didn't
warm
seem very
down while
happy.
climbing?
Nah, I mean, kind of. So the buses were all parked on that big hill today.
Oh, it was
great.
like
steep.
UAE was right at the top, and
Yeah.
I made it. I was second to Richard Abraham,
Oh,
the cycling podcast, but I did beat Chris Marshall-Bell from Cycling Weekly, and he's a live character. So it just goes to show, me and Richard Abraham, medium to large size gentlemen.
do you know who was not enjoying that hill?
Who?
Mark Cavendish.
Did you?
He was so... I mean, he
Done.
was smiling
Astana was like
because
second or
he's on
third.
his friendship tour, right? He's been on a
Yeah.
friendship tour for 2 years now. So he was smiling at all the fans, but you could see in his eyes and soul that he was like, I just climbed up so many fucking mountains.
I'm done.
And I now have to climb up this small fucking mountain to get just to my team bus.
And
What is this bullshit?
the great part about that is that probably like half an hour after everyone else had finished, by that point there were vans everywhere, there were cars everywhere,
yeah, it
there were
was a
fans
nightmare.
just walking around. So he didn't just have a straight ride up the hill. He was like squeezing through gaps and like running into people. It was great.
He was giving high fives as he came into the finish, but it was like high fives with like a sort of closed fist. It was like nice of him to do it. Like, we have to appreciate the fact that he's making an effort when he could
He's
just
on his
like
friendship tour.
do his like mouth agape, just like with this. Those glasses, those Oakley glasses, look so dumb when you're in the Gruppetto, like
Stupid
climbing
glasses.
very slowly. It's so stupid. They should only have to wear those glasses when they're going fast in a sprint, because otherwise it's like anti-marketing.
That actually reminds me of a tangent off the tangent, and I really apologize for how loose this segment's getting.
No, I love it.
No, we did half an hour of like legit bike racing
Okay,
talk,
great.
so now
So-
we can just do whatever we want.
So somber.
So
almost,
the tangent off the tangent was related to Mark Cavendish's high fives, because Caley and me had a high five competition.
We did, yeah.
On the way up what we thought was Virage Bardet.
But it wasn't.
It wasn't. We drove the course to try to get to Virage Bardet to get some Atmos.
But we
and
missed it.
We made a mistake.
We entered too late.
We were one climb wrong. So we were just driving along thinking, oh, this is a bit shit.
We were like, no one likes Romain Bardet. This is really weird.
But I think people like Romain Bardet. We were just a little bit late. We had a high five competition, and it's actually quite hard when Caley's in the driving seat and deliberately steering away from the people on my side. But still, I got 59 high fives.
59.
Yeah,
and a bit of tennis elbow, because some of them were quite hard and they just sort of like whacked me and hyperextended my elbow.
What did you not get that Caley did get though?
High butt.
Yeah.
He got a high butt. He smacked the ass, as the Americans would say, of a man in Speedos.
Yep.
Who
so
bent over
I was
and
giving
offered
high
up
fives.
his rear.
Speedo Man knew exactly what I was going for.
Understood the assignment.
Yeah.
He understood the assignment, but then he was also like, I understand my assignment better than I understand
He
your
had to
assignment. And
smack that tushy.
So two of them actually, they made their behinds available
Yeah.
to my smacking. They
Yeah.
clearly wanted that.
But also,
Like, it's a tour.
Just
There are
to be
different
clear, this
rules
was
on the climbs.
consensual. This is as close to like we signed a contract consensual
Yeah.
as you could
But
possibly
never
get.
before have I seen my boss smack a buttock.
but I would also say that the scoring of that portion of the high five competition was such bullshit, because you awarded yourself 10 points.
No,
10
I
high
did-
fives
I
for
did-
2 buttocks.
I allowed it. As the backseat
You're not the
Larry.
jury.
Backseat Barry. I was the jury. I wasn't competing. I was an impartial adjudicator. Look, okay.
I clearly got more high fives.
Ian,
A butt
you
slap
won.
is worth 10.
You won the
regular
fit off
high fives.
yesterday with your
Okay,
matching
all right,
outfits.
okay.
Give Caley the high fives, and then we'll do a tiebreaker tomorrow. I don't know what it is yet. We'll decide.
Well, that'll be fun. How will we debase ourselves tomorrow?
We'll never know.
Okay, so back off the high five tangent to. So I was wandering around at the finish today, and the interview that I wanted did not present himself, which meant that I was just looking for little nuggets of things that I thought were funny. Enric Mas rode past. 2 fans walking the other way said, "I've never seen him look happy," which is about
Did
right.
they say that in English?
Yeah.
Oh, 'cause I was going to
Not
say
in
you've
Spanish.
been on,
That would be quite rude.
but you've been on such a French sort of high the past couple of days.
Like
Ian's
a
learned
week
French
into
in
the
like
tour, he just like
24 hours.
becomes fluent every
Yeah,
year.
it's great.
Yeah.
I really think you're over-exaggerating.
We are absolutely not.
Pomme de terre.
I'm just apple
Apple of the earth.
The other fun quote that I sort of sniped on was a Trek mechanic. I could have asked for more info on this from the press officer. I didn't. I just liked the entirety of this quote. "I lost 2 wheels today. One I could save, the other I lost somewhere." So, somewhere on the
Just
route,
somewhere.
there's just a
It's like a.
Bontrager
And
wheel.
how much they cost? Probably a decent.
A
amount.
couple of $1,000 a wheel, just
There we go.
somewhere.
I saw
If
a
you're short this
heartwarming
month
thing.
for rent,
I didn't mention this in the pod because we had so much other stuff to talk about. But the gravel stage, one of the, I want to say it was Quick Step riders. I can't remember which was which. No, it was one of the. Yeah, it was Quick Step. Rode up to, I think it was Israel Premier Tech, and had one of their wheels. So that one of the Israel Premier Tech team cars had stopped for this rider and given them a wheel, done a wheel change for them.
yeah.
And then they came and gave the wheel back after the stage. So like, didn't go to neutral, didn't go their own team car. Maybe we're just like hanging out by themselves, and they had to do the swap at the end.
There is a little bit of collegial
Yeah, definitely.
stuff between teams. Today I saw Johannes, the press officer from EF, running with Odd Christian Aiking from Uno X, just like
the name of
running
my
and
first
giving him a
child.
push. The name of your first child.
Yeah, unborn.
Odd Christian.
Yeah.
Anyway, Odd Christian Aiking, he was just running and giving him a push up that entire last little bit of the climb after the line, because Odd Christian Aiking is a former EF rider, which I thought was quite nice that there was still kinship after people had left.
There are often sort of, it's not necessarily an unwritten rule, but teams will help out other teams, especially like Israel have a lot of Belgian staff, I think.
Yeah.
So then what will happen is there's a natural sort of
They know all the Quick Step
allegiance.
guys.
They'll know all the Quick Step
Yeah,
guys, and then it's
Yeah.
like, you can trust them. And if you give a favour, you're more likely
But-
to receive one later in the race when you need it. And if it doesn't cost you much, then it's worth giving,
And in general, most of the wheel bike like disc brake, that like those combinations are pretty well settled at this point. So most of the bikes and wheels are compatible with most of the other bikes and wheels. Not all, but most. So yeah, you can actually get a wheel from some rando now.
Friendship tour in the
Friendship
Peloton.
tour within the Peloton. Yeah.
To the next nugget. This one really shook me, actually.
Yeah.
Fernando Gaviria has only shaved his beard off. And this is a man who's had a beard probably since he was about 12.
Did you get a picture?
No.
Is it? Wait, let me look
he
at.
just rode past and I was like,
now.
I do not know who that man is. He might have a moustache, but I was so shaken by the lack of beard that I just didn't know what to do with myself.
Sorry if you're going to hear me sneezing and blow my nose, but something's going on to me this podcast. There are no photos of Fernando Gaviria since the.
I don't think
stage
Johnny
7.
made Bahrain sick.
There
is
a photo
No,
on
it's
his
just-
Instagram.
The allergies have hit you like every 3 days,
I don't know what's going
randomly for like 3 hours. It's very strange.
Very weird. There's no. Well, I'm looking on Corvos, one of our photo suppliers right now, and there is no photo. I'm going to try and get Instagram up, but it might take a bit longer.
Yeah, Instagram, there's definitely a picture of him
I have a
with
question.
a moustache. Yeah, please.
You spoke with Ben Healy today.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
The one bit of actual work I did this evening.
Yeah.
Iain, come on.
Ben Healy is on one right now.
He is.
I said this to Charlie Wigelius, and he made one of those like kind of person who's been in Europe a long time noises. Kind of thing. Surely he's got to get one of these, right? He's flying.
Well, before we do what we're about to, I think, do, he didn't win the combativity prize today. They gave
Why?
it to Pogačar, even though Pogačar was already on the podium for the yellow and polka dot jersey. Why?
Such
Why delay
bullshit.
him even more? Is this like big Jonas Vingegaard Industries trying to take him down?
I did speak to Ben Healy, and he said that today was kind of the day that he'd picked out, and that after this, the opportunities are less good for him. We can cut to that interview now if you'd like to hear the entirety.
You've ridden Grand Tours before. I was wondering how the level compares at the Tour de France, or the pressure or expectation of yourself.
Yeah, it's for sure different. I was pretty anxious coming into the tour. It's talked up to be, well, and it is the biggest race in the world. And high stress, high stakes. But yeah, it's been quite nice. I've come here with really good shape, and I think that helps a lot. And yeah, everyone here is at the highest level, and I think we haven't seen any big crashes this year, and it really just shows the quality of the bunch, and everyone's so respectful, and yeah, I've actually really enjoyed it so far.
You've clearly got pretty good form. You rode really well today. Was it kind of expected that you'd get caught, or was it pretty gutting when?
Yeah, I think when they had us on 2 minutes all day, it was pretty clear what UAE's plan was, and my only hope was maybe they start messing with Almeida and Ayuso, but yeah, that didn't happen in the end, and yeah, that was that. I guess it's pretty hard for me now on. This really was a day that I'd marked down for myself, but yeah, there's we just got to find the opportunities where we can, I think, and yeah, race how we did today, and just hope that it goes our way.
Was the Healy Carapaz 1-2 kind of a planned manoeuvre, or is that just how it took out?
Yeah, I mean, it was a day that's on paper we thought suited the breakaway, and we just wanted to try and get anyone in there, and it just turned out that it was me and Richie, which was the ideal situation for us.
Thank you very much for your time.
So that was Ben Healy, a man with short, bleached blonde hair.
Pretty similar to Johnny.
Nah, he's
Shorter.
doing more. He's got like
Yeah.
the platinum blonde thing now, short
You've
cropped.
got the sort of like sprinkles.
Yeah.
Yep. You've got vanilla sprinkles going on.
And the final part of my little Ian's notebook, I'd describe this as like a mini feature, because it involves 4 different chats with 4 different teams.
Ooh la la.
Which is industrious, I think we can agree. So last night we were in an absolute dive of a place
I liked it.
we watched a bit of the football whilst eating
I liked it a lot.
a deeply
Ian's just slightly aggrieved because he accidentally ate the heart of a rabbit.
I thought
at
it was a
dinner.
mushroom.
It couldn't have looked more like a heart.
Yeah, but it also couldn't have looked more like a mushroom.
True. My mushroom heart.
It was only halfway through that I realized I'd made a bad mistake.
And it will haunt you for a long time.
I normally shy away from
Bum-bum.
like innards of
Bum-bum.
animals.
Bum bum. Bum bum. Bum bum.
And in this case, I thought, it's already happened, so I'm just going to finish it. It was pretty gross. Anyway, so Caley and Jonny, like a pack of absolute nerds, watched their football game, and I didn't really care.
Excuse me.
But part of calculation was,
Bros.
where are we going to be able to watch the football game? I wonder whether the riders are watching the football game. It was France versus Spain.
Yeah.
Last time we saw a France game, there were fireworks going off in the street and people driving around honking their horns for about an hour.
Different vibe this time.
Different vibe this time on account of being in a shitty town in the middle of nowhere.
Whoa.
But I wanted to know...
It wasn't even a town. It was a crossroads.
Yeah, it was. It really was.
I wanted to know what happened in a game of national significance for the French and the Spanish teams in the Tour de France. So I went to Movistar. I asked a mechanic who had some grasp of English what happened, whether they all sat together and watched the football.
Yeah.
And he told me that they all piled onto the bus to watch the football on the bus together.
Because it probably got a good connection
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the satellite that they used to stream the race.
So
And
they
like
care,
comfortable seats and stuff.
Yeah.
they care enough about the football that after an entire day, either on a bike or on a
They are
bus,
that Spanish.
they
Yeah.
get back onto the bus to watch the football.
Oh.
And it wasn't done early.
No.
No, it started at 9.
Yeah.
Which is mad.
Maybe it's why Enric Mas fell off the back pretty early today.
I went to Total Energies, and I've spent a bit of time around the Total Energies.
You are now friends with Total Energies. I think
Wow.
Unox are getting jealous, I will have to say.
Well, so I went to one of the men at Total Energies that I thought had more of a grasp on English than it turns out he actually did, who got very confused by my question. And he said that they watched the football while eating dinner. And then I asked whether they were sad, and he said he didn't understand. And he was quite unsure about... He seemed unsure about the emotional response.
We could have given you a couple words there.
Well, I didn't...
Yeah.
You weren't there. And I was just like...
Vous êtes triste?
Oh, I did know that one. I was trying to walk back to the
Were you
ice,
doing hand
ice skip.
signals? You, sad, you sad.
I think I might have.
Johnny
Anyway,
was just doing the...
he said sorry.
the, hand
Like
near the
Welch
eye.
or a motorbike, but near your eye.
Yeah.
He either said that he didn't know what I was talking about or just wanted me to go away. Could be either.
Could be either.
Then AG2R, deeply French team,
Deeply.
Pretty deeply.
had the privilege of sticking my head in a car where Pierre Muglac was.
Is Muglac Melbourne or Sydney?
Melbourne, big Melbourne.
Okay.
Yeah, so Melbourne. So Melbourne, it hurts.
This is the debate that we're having.
We'll talk about this in After Dark.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
okay.
is an
Oh,
After
After
Dark
Dark.
subject. But I just had to throw the teaser out there.
So I asked Pierre whether they watched the football at AG2R, and he said the staff watched the football, and I said that was disappointing, and he said, "What? You wanted us to watch together and be sad together?" And I said, "I suppose by implication that is what I wanted." And then the final cherry on the top, I didn't talk to Groupama FDJ because they'd already gone by the time I got down to them, but I spoke to Arkea Samsic, a team that I've never, ever, ever, ever spoken to.
No one has.
But I
I
spoke
can't get a
to
text back from their press officer.
I spoke to a brace of Arkea Samsics, and
Okay, B&B Hotels, sorry.
I think that's called a murder.
well, the most murderous one of them told me
I
that
know the one you're talking about.
an older man,
Yes.
yes, a little bit scary, very serious.
Glasses?
I can't remember.
Ah.
He told me they watched the first half and then went to bed. We don't like football. We
That-
prefer the cycling.
That is the most archaic B&B Hotels thing I've ever heard in my life.
That's why they're a murder.
No joy.
Like crows.
Joy is pain.
Thus concludes my football feature.
I enjoyed that a lot, that whole notebook segment.
That was
More.
great.
Because also, you didn't tell us about any of this during the day, so
Yeah, it was a surprise.
Little
like-
treat for later.
it's like you got home from work to me and Caley making you dinner and told us about your day.
Babe, you won't believe what happened at work today.
Good job at work today. Really quick, before we head to After Dark,
We got a couple of things.
Virage. We have two Virages. Virage
Three, maybe.
Bardet
Oh yes.
and Virage Correction. So first of all, Virage Bardet, very short because we missed it. We thought we were going to hit it.
We got
And
done by fake news online.
yeah, I Googled like where is it? And it told me it was on the second to last climb instead of the third to last climb. And so we're like, oh, and I found this sort of route in, and then we did this whole shenanigans to like get into the course, which is a whole thing these days. And we're driving along, and we're like, where does we said this in the car, like, does no one like Romain Bardet? Which we knew was not true.
No.
So we didn't see Virage Bardet, but it did happen today, which was, of course, Romain Bardet. This is his last Tour de France.
Yeah.
He got to wear a yellow jersey. Great, fantastic. Won a stage. Amazing. And today was a little homage to him, which, by all accounts, none of which are ours, looked great.
Well, okay.
Smaller than Pinot.
Smaller than Pinot. I will say, when we saw it on the TV, a lot of close camera shots. He did
versus Pinot, where it was just insanity.
He has one stage and a yellow jersey. It's final Tour de France, which is more than Pinot.
It's also farther from his hometown. So Clermont-Ferrand is like his hometown, which last year at the Tour was like a big deal for him.
No, actually, not his hometown.
Where's his hometown?
He's a little bit closer to Volcania, which is a volcano-themed theme
exactly
park.
a year ago today, we were there.
And what a time. We actually drove past Clermont on the way to where
Is it
We
south
waved
of
at the
Clermont?
big, horrible
black cathedral.
Still strikes fear into my heart as I nearly went into the central reservation while trying to look at it while driving on the motorway.
The other virage we have is our virage corrections. Is virage actually the word for corner? I haven't actually checked.
Before you say that, what I will say about Virage Bardet is that he hugged someone he knew, but he stayed on his bike, so he didn't get put in the
Didn't get a fine.
We've done a terrible job of rehashing one of our main features from last year called You're in Trouble.
Yep.
But
there's nothing in it today.
There's nothing in it. People haven't been that mischievous apart from obviously what's his face, Julien Bernard the other day.
But to go back to Julien Bernard, who got fined 200 Swiss francs for bringing the sport into disrepute or whatever bullshit.
Shame on him.
Shame on him. We looked up some fines from a year previous.
Did you actually find?
Yeah.
Trying to look?
I looked it up because Benoit Cosnefroy had a beer, got off his bike, was dancing, and didn't get fined. Meanwhile,
who was it with? It was with someone else as well.
It
was with that. Was it with Nuns Peters? I think it might have been.
Nuns Peters. That's good. I hope so.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, you've done it now, haven't you?
The only You're in Trouble today was Felix Gall took a drink where he wasn't supposed to. And so he got a fine.
Shame on him.
And Julien Jordi, his director,
shame on him.
Netflix fame,
for several reasons,
got a fine. 20-second penalty, 500 Swiss francs, 6 points in the points classification, and Julien Jordi was fined 1,000 francs. Corrections: Henry IV, not Louis IV.
Yeah, and I actually knew that because I've spent a lot of time talking to the man. But
Henry IV, you spent a lot of time.
You just got overawed by his presence. It's fine. It happens.
The king of France. So Henri? It was Henri, and I think I said Louis, which joke's on me. But anyway,
do you regret the error?
I absolutely regret the error.
Will you apologize?
No.
Will we issue a retraction?
I do issue a retraction, and a friend of the podcast, Josh Robertson of the Wall Street Journal, said in his correction that Louis IV predated Henri IV by hundreds of years and died after falling off a horse while chasing a wolf. To which I say, we've all done it.
Did he also say shoot
Louis IV?
Shoot Louis IV. Reference in race radio. Good stuff.
Shoot means crash in French.
And the second correction from Josh was that the office guy...
Oh, yeah, my bad.
That Jonny referred to was Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin, the person playing Ben Franklin at like a museum, or it was like a place where a battle was in the American Civil or Revolutionary War. I don't care. Happened a long time ago. It was Ben Franklin, not Abraham Lincoln.
Get off our backs, Josh.
They are
nerd.
different eras.
Yeah, big history nerd who only wears trousers. He'll be back soon. It's gonna be good.
Let's head over to the Giro. Good stage of the Giro today. Abby put together a little micro bit for us. But if you want way more depth on the Giro, you got to go subscribe to Wheel Talk. Make sure you go do that. Search Wheel Talk wherever you get your podcasts. Head over, get the good stuff from Abby. But here's a taste right now.
Elisa was having none of it. She was like, nah, I've got you marked. But I think the more interesting thing in the GC conversation is not so much Kopecky, more that Trek did almost nothing until they really had to. There, at a certain point, it was only Movistar pulling on the front when that 15-rider group went. And they actually called Brody Chapman out of that 15-rider group back to the peloton, the very, very reduced peloton, to chase, because Elisa said after the race that they were a little bit worried about Sile.
Yeah, it was a strange one, wasn't it? Because they did not take control of the race in a way that you might expect the pink jersey team to. It almost felt to me that they cared more about Kopecky than Sile, which I understand, like Kopecky is closer, but at one point Uttrup Ludwig could have taken the jersey and they were kind of just letting this happen, let the gap be a minute, because she only started a minute and a half down and the gap was over a minute at one point, but they seemed so focused on Kopecky, which, seeing that final climb, I can understand why, but like, I thought at a certain point, I was thinking, like, are they just letting this group go? Like, do they want to have a couple of days out of pink and go back for it? Like, are they not that fussed about it? So then actually I was surprised when they said, oh, we called Chapman back because we wanted to control it, because I was like, well, you haven't controlled it until now. And it really seemed like they were just kind of, happy to let it go and put all the focus on Kopecky, which I guess worked in the end, because then Kopecky didn't take any time on them, but she's conceded a lot of time to Uttrup Ludwig, which I would say if you're a longer Bugini type rider, you don't want to concede that time to a rider like Cecilie at this time. So I was quite surprised with Trek today. I think they kind of need to show a bit more like assertiveness in this race, perhaps. Like, they have the pink jersey, they have a strong team. Like, sometimes you can't sit back and let Movistar be doing the work. Like, you're the big team here, and even if it's just from a symbolic point of view, sometimes you have to say that. But they were just marking Kopecky, it felt like. I
mean, they called Brody out of that group because Elisa Longoborghini was like almost completely isolated. She only had Gaia left. After those two climbs, the peloton was just tiny, and only one teammate left in the group who's also in theory kind of floating around the GC conversation. So
and then finally, Jose Ben is back. I messed this one up. This is entirely on me, and I apologize, but we're back on track today with tomorrow. We finally made it to a cheese region, which Jose is very excited about, and I'm very excited about. So enjoy the only cheese blog.
The only one.
The only one. Wow. I mean, you never know. Maybe we'll get another one in the Pyrenees or something, but that Jose says this is the only one, the only cheese blog of this year's Tour de France.
Hooray, we have made it to a cheese region. Although fromage is omnipresent in France. But I can tell you something about Cantal, the cheese named after the department we are racing in on stage 12. We're on volcanic grounds here, but the cheese is not nearly as old as these volcanoes, although Cantal is one of the oldest French cheeses. It is protected by an AOC, the Appellation d'Origine Contrôlée, like over 40 other cheeses in this country. This label determines how and where cheeses using the Cantal brand name can be made. Cantal is estimated to be at least 2,000 years old. Even in Roman times, author Pliny the Elder references this cheese in one of his chronicles. The department of Cantal is a region known for lush grasslands. The cheese is produced by more than 1,300 different farms. More than 60 types of plants have been found in the pastures. Since Cantal's AOC requires that cows whose milk is used to make this cheese must graze on fresh grass for at least 4 months of the year, From May to October, these complex flavors show up in the finished product. Cantal's subtle flavors grow in complexity the longer it's aged. Taste ranges from milky and buttery to piquant and peppery, a dedicated foodie's website tells me. The cheese has an earthy natural rind that may be white, grey or gold depending on the cheese's age. I usually don't eat the rind, but it is edible, although it might be very chewy on the older varieties. But our dogs are really happy to eat them. Cantal comes in various sizes because they use different molds for the raw cow's milk. The big ones are between 35 and 45 kilos and the small ones around 10. The difference in weight in the big one has to do with age. Young cheeses contain more moisture than the older ones. It's a cheese that can be kept for months or even years and therefore was also interesting for trade, unlike the soft cheeses like Brie. Historic sources mention that a lot of the Cantal was actually transported to the Provence in the south of the country. Cantal shines on a cheeseboard with accompaniments like toasted hazelnuts, grapes or stone fruits like peaches and apricots. I continue to read on this foodie website, The Spruce Eats. What a job, writing about cheese for a living. Oh, well, never mind. The cheese pairs well with wines such as Côte d'Auvergne or Cabernet Sauvignon, and it can be shaved onto a green salad with a vinaigrette melted into a fondue or blended into potatoes in a pomme aligot. It can also be grated, used in recipes for baked dishes like tarts, quiches and gratin. Yeah, all of the above, please. Bon appétit.
Ah, quel fromage.
Quel dommage pour le fromage. Maybe.
C'est le jour de fromage aujourd'hui?
Un peu.
Oui.
My Sablé.
My Sablé. Who's got it?
Well,
who's lost it? Who's in the
Nicolas
running?
Prudhomme. He lost it.
No.
But he did rise in the GC somehow. He's out of the My Sablé, lost time, but he's up 15 places. So, as Tadej Pogačar said today in his press conference, he started off with a chapeau to Jonas Vingegaard, but then he corrected himself and said hat off, which kind of like. You might think about that for a couple of days before deciding what to do with it. We've got a new My Sablé. 1 hour and 55 seconds. I'm pretty sure this is a guy who's not going to be open to the concept. It's only Jakob Fuglsang. So will we try?
Will we
not?
explain? Generally, the more actual results a rider has, the less into the Maya Sablé they are. The exception being riders who just like fundamentally, internally understand and appreciate our bullshit. Like the key one here is George Bennett. George Bennett once almost won the Mile Sablé and then lost it on the Champs-Élysées because he got dropped on the Champs because he didn't care. And he lost the Mile Sablé and he was in tears on the Champs. And he has won things and is a good bike racer, but got it nonetheless.
I will try with Jakob Fuglsang. Either tomorrow or the next day. Partly because I fear that his time in the peloton may be at an end soon. And I'm not going to necessarily need to talk to him about anything else, and it won't hurt my soul if he hates me.
Well, if he retires at the end of this year, then it's good for him to get one last prize before
That's true.
goes
That's
up
very
into
true.
a big Danish sunset.
I don't think he's going to agree with that, but we'll see.
Should we head to After Dark?
Yeah, why not?
So first of all, a bunch of you bought our T-shirts.
Oh yeah,
Amazing. We love you.
yeah. Good
We've
on
got
you
a couple
for being
new ones.
clothed.
Head to the merch section of the website. We've got
There's
my
other
Asabla
stuff there.
T-shirts. We've got Poe is everything is Poe to me.
Yeah.
I still don't get that one, but maybe no one does, and maybe that's
I didn't think.
maybe that's the
I don't
best
think
thing
I
about
got
it.
We've explained this so many
Yeah, but
times.
I still don't get it.
That's
So,
part of the thing about it.
The thing about Poe is that it is a place of many wonders, from a squirrel shitting on you whilst you eat Mexican food to majestic views across the Alps.
To another Mexican
Pyrenees?
restaurant which
Pyrenees.
Greg LeMond eats at.
It's
Yep.
all Poe to me.
Yeah, still doesn't make sense.
It's all Poe to me.
Look, I think it's just like everyone has to buy shit.
Yeah.
It's just what people do. You might as well buy our shit, maybe.
It is
If we're being
actually-
honest,
It's
good.
a really
You-
good-looking T-shirt that I'm actually going to.
I'm
pay-
going to get one.
I'm
There's a
going to pay real
rule.
money.
There's a rule.
What rule?
No shirt, no shoes, no service.
Oh.
So if you already have shoes and you want service, you need a shirt.
Yeah, no, the Poe one I particularly like. I feel like I could,
Looks good.
yeah.
head to the merch shop of our website. I don't even know what just find
/ shop, probably. After Dark.
it. All right,
Thanks
we're
for
headed
being
after
here.
dark. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
If you're a
$1.
member, hang out. We'll see you in a second.